Position in public school systems across the United States is that of school superintendent. And 75% of the people who are teaching are women. However, less than 25% of women make up that powerful position of superintendent. Well, I am very excited tonight to have as my guest the superintendent of the Humboldt City Schools in Gibson County, Tennessee, one of the trailblazers who's helping to change the face and the look of superintendents across the country, Dr. Janice Epperson in Humboldt, Tennessee. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Pamela, for having me. Thank you.
She is our guest. Stay with us. We'll be right back. It is a gender gap that is not closing fast enough. However, we are so proud and so excited that Dr. Janice Epperson was able to go back to her hometown. Who says that you can't go back home? There you go.
I'm on 2 items, so I'm going to turn one off, okay?
That's okay. That's okay.
All right, there we go. I'm back.
Dr. Epperson, who says, it's said that it's difficult for people to go back home and hold positions or to lead. And here you are back in a very, very critical role as school superintendent where you grew up. What does that feel like for you?
Well, it's more than a notion, but I'll tell you this, it's a lot of mixed emotions and mixed feelings. You're happy to be back home and be with family and be with friends and try to make an impact in your community and in the organization where you were actually a student. However, some big responsibilities and some heavy expectations. I work for a 5-member school board, and they were very blatant with what they want to see, but they have been very supportive and given me no time frame to make it happen, but just wanting to know that we can make it happen. So that's been tough, Pamela, but so it's some mixed emotions. Happy, but nervous a little bit at the same time, because you've got to embrace those expectations and just move forward.
You got that position with a unanimous vote. So that was very powerful to have all of them endorsing you, welcoming you, and believing that you can carry out whatever those expectations are.
Absolutely. Well, we jokingly say, yeah, but my father knows where they all live, so he probably would have harassed them after the voting was over. But seriously, that was really good. That was great to know that the school board appreciated me traveling and journeying and trying to figure out my place in the world of education, and embracing the fact that I did leave the state and was willing to come back to try to make an impact.
Well, as I said at the top of the show, women make up 75% of those who are teaching, and it is reminiscent of what you see in the churches. There are more women sitting on the pews, but there are less women who are leading congregations. Why do you think it's taking so long for more women to be appointed or hired as superintendents of schools?
I think a lot of it has to do with breaking the glass ceiling, just that barrier of the community and people feeling that those upper level leadership positions should be and need to be ran by a male. And that's not always the case, because there's a flair that comes with being the superintendent that I believe women just need to have their hand in. And it's not that a man can't do it. It's just some things that we need to have our hand in. And if we are willing to again, take on the responsibilities and the obligations that come with it, I think we should be allowed to do that. But a lot of that is because, on the other hand, we thought we knew our place in the world, and maybe that wasn't it. A lot of times when you look at leadership positions, you don't always see women. And we think that that's not a woman's job per se, that's a man's job. It's like leading a congregation at the church. Some people feel like that is all about the men having to do that, because people tend to follow men more than they do women. And they've done that for a long time. But I think now that they know that we're capable, and they believe that we're capable, we just want an opportunity to show that.
So, what makes the difference as a woman leading a school system? What is different about you, Dr. Epperson, leading this school system that you're bringing to the table as a woman, as an African American woman leading?
I believe one of the things is just that motherly, nurturing spirit that I try to bring with me. A lot of students, they talk to me, and a lot of teachers talk to me. I just want to be able to have that listening ear, but asking them if they would allow me to give them some words of encouragement or advice if they choose to. And if they don't and they just want me to listen, I'm willing to do that also. But I think also the grit and the grind. I'm a former athlete. I know if you were looking at me, you may not tell with this body that I operate in right now, but I'm a former athlete, and there's just this little intuitiveness that you have, and this a little grit and this a little grind that want to see success at every level and at from every aspect. And I think that's a lot of what helps motivate me.
And so you taught school.
Yes.
Um, you know what it's like to be in that seat. You know what it's like to support somebody who is a superintendent. Dr. Epperson, and my guest tonight, for those of you who are joining from all over, thank you so much for joining. Donna Whitehead, Frances Poe, my eldest sister, Darnice March, and Missy Marshall from Collierville, Tennessee. Missy, everybody, thank you for joining. Thank you for watching. In the roles that you played, what do you think was the most significant that is helping you to be a success in this role as superintendent?
I think being a teacher, and more importantly, being a teacher, my career started at Humboldt. So I was a teacher from the school that I graduated from. That was my first job, my first job. And I taught my youngest sister 12th grade, her senior English year, I taught her. So
Really?
I had to study because I really wanted her to be successful. And in order for her to be successful, she needed a strong English teacher. And she was a cosmetologist, so her schedule wouldn't allow her to take honors English. So she had to take regular English with her big sister, and we lived together. So I was really trying to work hard to make sure that I gave her the best education, which meant the rest of the kids in the class were going to get a good education too, because I knew I was going to work her. So even though I've been in different roles, being the teacher has helped me to, I think, be a pretty decent superintendent. Because if you've never been there as a teacher, you truly don't understand what they go through every day. So that gives me a mindset that when I set expectations, I say, is that something I would have wanted the superintendent to ask me to do, or wanted my team to go out and put forth? So that out of all of those positions that I have had, being a teacher, I think, really set the foundation.
Dr. Epperson, you were interviewed along with some other candidates. What was it about you that set you apart, you think?
I
Besides,
honestly think,
besides your daddy going to visit each of the school board members,
I
which
honestly
he
think
didn't. We're just
he
joking.
didn't. By the way, he didn't. He didn't have to. I think knowing the community, being a product of the school system that was so successful when I was on campus, and over the course of the years, that success has dwindled a little bit. And being that I knew what that looked like, and I knew how, in my mind, I feel like I know how to get us back there. Now, it's going to take some time, but I believe that I shared my passion for the community, And although I left Humboldt to go to Jackson and then left Humboldt to go, or left Jackson to go to Connecticut, I was still so deeply involved in the community with the kids because I sponsored a scholarship pageant for 25 years. And even when I left to go to Jackson, I didn't stop that. So just being a part of the community, knowing what it used to look like, and knowing what my old teachers expected, and knowing what the community expected, because I believe schools make communities, communities don't make schools. And so I think that that played a big part in it.
So when you talk about this community and that balance of the expectations for the students based on how you grew up and what you saw, things are a little different now. How do you bring the two together? Because I've heard educators talk about teachers are frustrated because it seems many times that the children have more rights than the teachers, and it's hard to teach. It's
Right.
hard. It's hard to have time to have that compassion that teachers used to be able to exhibit in the classrooms.
The sustainability rate of new teachers, that first year teacher, it is awful. We are,
Mm.
we've got to figure out how to keep them interested, involved, and healthy mentally and physically. But we don't have a lot of students going into education from the universities. Like we would always like go to the University of Tennessee at Martin, or go to Lane or Memphis, University of Memphis. We just don't have a big pool of graduates to choose from. Just trying to keep that balanced off with making sure we don't have adult problems. If we're going to have problems in a school, we should have student problems. We shouldn't have adult problems. And I say that very passionately because if the adult, if you're not cut out for it and you can't do it anymore, I would prefer you just stop and not hurt kids, because we are at a stage where, if we be very transparent, we have some teachers who are very tired, and they can't do it. And the kids are suffering from it, because we have a group of kids right now, they're a little different, and they're hard to calm down, get settled. It takes a lot of energy from a teacher, and it takes more than it did for us when we were coming up. We just believed everything they said, and you sat down, you got ready. But that's expectations from the adults. So if we're going to have problems, we have to have kid problems. We can't have adult problems, because ultimately, if the adults are not happy and they're not healthy, then we're not going to have happy, healthy, and educated students.
Superintendent Dr. Janice Epperson, who is the superintendent of schools in Humboldt, Tennessee, excuse me, Gibson County, just right close to Jackson, Tennessee, if you don't know where it is. But you talk about the environment of healthy and what's not healthy. Let's just talk about COVID. What has that meant for you as a superintendent, leading in school shutdowns, in virtual classes, and trying to keep children on track, trying to keep teachers on track to keep children on track? How has that been for you?
So Pamela, when COVID hit, I was the assistant superintendent under Dr. Verna Ruffin in Waterbury, Connecticut. And I tried to lead my district based on how she led Waterbury. And, we have to keep in mind that the adults went through COVID, just our teachers went through COVID, just like our students did. And they lost loved ones. They were sick. They were battling it. They had to take off because their kids were sick. So everybody was going through COVID. And we had to remember that things were not going to look the same ever again, like never, ever again. Trying to make sure that kids had all of the electronic devices. There were no connectivity problems in their homes. They had a plethora of grants that we could choose from. So I'm telling you, our teachers needed a break also. So we never really shut down when I was in Connecticut. We were already one-to-one pretty much. Connecticut has this weather concern, and we just logged on, and we had a platform that we lived by, and we just tried to keep going. But it was very difficult. When you got kids who during COVID, they needed to work to help with the family and help support the family. So the state of Connecticut brought out ways that kids could get credit for attending school and not just sitting here looking in the screen. There were different ways that they could get credit for being in attendance, and so it wouldn't affect our chronic absenteeism. Because although we were going through COVID, at that particular time, the state mandates, they didn't cease until later. So we were still working, trying to make sure the kids were prepared for testing, and we were not over superseding the number for chronic absenteeism percentages. So when COVID hit really hard, late 2020, everybody was trying to figure out, how do we survive in this world? And not only how do we survive at home, but how do we survive at school? Because our kids were struggling, and we never had so many kids contemplating suicide. We never had that. And then when COVID hit, it was like, it just kind of opened up a bigger world. And so not only were you dealing with trying to make sure they were educated, some kids can't do this, what you and I are doing right now. And then some kids could. There were some kids who loved this, staying at home, could do what they want. And then there were some kids who just couldn't get it together. So we were struggling from more than one perspective when it came to educating our kids in COVID.
Dr. Epperson, what do you think? Do you think we're prepared for what we're going to be seeing with students who are going to be graduating over the next few years, who experience the shutdown and the void in one-to-one education system? How impactful do you think that's going to be on our workforce and the quality of the workforce?
I think it's going to be very impactful. And I say that because Florida, where you are, Tennessee, where I am, we weren't the only states that went through COVID. Everybody did. And we act like we're, sometimes when I talk to people in the community, we act like we're the only ones who are sending out kids who are not where they need to be under normal circumstances. So we're not functioning under normal circumstances. We're functioning under circumstances that are unbecoming. And I think it's more of the fear of the unknown. We don't really know what that's going to look like. But we have got to get back to the point that we make sure that our kids are either doing work-based learning, college to career events. We've got to figure out how we send our kids out so they are at least competitive. We can't send them out. We can't just send them out and say, go and go. No, we've got to send them out with something. And Pamela, please remember, and I say this a lot when I talk to people, we didn't send empty vessels to 2021. Our kids had something. Yeah. I mean, we hadn't been in COVID all of our lives. We sent them to the next group of teachers with something. Whatever that prior knowledge is, we've got to figure out where they are, and then we've got to take them to where they need to be. Every kid deserves at least 1 year of growth. Every kid. But when we go 3 years and the kids aren't growing, that's what bothers me. And we can't send those kids out because they're not ready. They don't have the work ethics, they don't have the work mindset, and they can't compete with people in just neighboring towns versus people in bigger states. So that bothers me a little bit.
Yeah, Dr. Janice Epperson, in the most powerful seat in education for the Humboldt City Schools as superintendent, as you talk about what you are trying to do with your teachers, with the students that you all are serving, are there other entities in the community that you feel like need to step up to help?
And you had to have me on recorded and live. And so I just got to tell you, our churches have got to step up. I think our boys and girls clubs, I think they're stepping up. They give us some really good data here in Humboldt, but our churches have to step up, because even though we went through COVID, we found a way to serve. We found a way to get church in. whether it was Zoom or whatever. We found a way to do that. We have to find the same way to get those individuals involved in the lives and the careers of our children because they're most impactful. And if you think about it, everything we need to know about being a student, we learned in church. You come in, you use the restroom before you go in the church. You sit still, you listen, and if nobody asks you anything, you don't say anything. And you learn something. If you keep going enough and you keep paying attention, it's not going to fall on deaf ears. When our kids sometimes get off the bus, they don't metamorph into students. They forget that they're going to be a student, and there are some things that we did at home we can't do at school. There's some conversations we had at home we can't have at school. It's just like going to church. There are people who are going to make the ushers or like your teachers. Stop talking, listen, pay attention. And so our churches have got to do a better job with helping us. And I will tell you that the churches here in Humboldt, everything that I've asked them to do, and I haven't asked much, but they have been very supportive. I do have some ministers that I call on when I need them, and they are right there for me all the time. So if we can get the churches, I think holistically to help us, I don't care about the denomination. That's not what we're looking at. We're just caring about the leadership, the love, open your doors to them if they need tutoring. And it's something that we don't have to pay for. But if we can get more help from those community people, I think all of our communities will grow.
Yeah, Dr. Epperson, it is, I think sometimes as people will quickly say these children are different and they don't want to listen. But in many cases, we've also stopped talking.
Yes.
And it is not their fault that we have given up on them. And so please, wherever you're watching across the country, encourage your church or churches in your community to step up and help, because this is critical. This is our future generations. Pedra,
I know Pedra.
Carol.
She's my
Yeah.
Tigard student, former Tigard student.
Oh, my favorite assistant principal. I love you. Attitude determines attitude is what you taught me.
Yeah. That was one of our slogans. We said that every morning before they started. Your attitude determines your altitude.
And Stephanie Cooper is watching. Hey, the youngest sister is watching in Cordova. I'm so proud of you. What does that feel like for you to have is this the sister that you taught?
Yes.
Okay.
It didn't go well early.
It didn't go well.
She didn't want to call me Miss Epperson. She just wanted to call me Ree. I said, you can't do that at school. She said, well, what do you want me to call you? I said, you have to call me Miss Epperson. She said, well, I'm not doing that, and I'm going to tell Mama when we get home. So yes, that's a good feeling. Yeah. But it
Did she
good.
finally start calling you Miss Epperson?
Yes.
She did.
That was a really
that was
good
sweet,
class.
Stephanie.
And when you live here in a community and you come back, you're almost related to everybody in the town. And if you're not, you should be, because they've claimed you anyway.
That's
so
how
they
we do
kind of
it.
give you a little flexibility to pop a head or two, and your mamas are okay with it because they know you mean it for their good. So that's been really good. And I will have to tell you this. People can say what they want about parents, and parents, they have their moments too, but I have some good parents. They may fuss a little bit, but if I call them and I need them, Pamela, they always come to my rescue. So we've got to get off of the parents. The parents got to get off of us a little bit, but we've got to get off of them and know that sometimes kids make their decisions based on what they want to base it on. It's not because they haven't been taught at home. Like Stephanie, it's not because she wasn't taught to say miss something. She just chose not to for whatever reason. But
after you were her big sister.
Right. And after the little conversation came from home, it changed and it got better. And but I'm thinking about a student of mine who came into my office today to talk to me about a concern that she had. And she said, I knew you would deal with it. I just knew you would deal with it. And I said, yeah. And I said, and don't move my kids. leave them in our district. We'll take care of the situation. We're gone. She came back to my office before she left. She said, I'm good. I'm proud. I'm good. So it's just communication. We can't close the communication line between school and home. We just can't afford to do that. They need us, and we definitely need them.
Dr. Epperson, as we've talked about the small percentage of women who are in this very powerful role as superintendent of schools, well, it's an even smaller percentage when it comes to African American women. What needs
Yes.
to happen to help inspire other women to do what you have done?
So I would suggest finding you a really good, strong female coach. And I have a couple. I've got Dr. Ruffin, I've got Dr. Doris Battle, I got Dr. Vivian Williams. My girlfriend, Dr. Tiffany Green, we talk. You just got to have people in your corner to talk. And then you've got to have these other people, like secretaries, old secretaries that you had, Tabitha, Gloria, LaShonda. You've got to have these people that you can bounce things off of that's going to tell you like it is, raw and uncut. I have a girlfriend, Kim Butler. You might remember Kim Butler and Zelda Jones. We talk about educational things, and they say, have you thought about it this way? Well, think about it this way. What if we do this? How about this? If you don't find a good coach, you just got to find a good coach who has been there, done that, understands where you are, and understands the law, and understands that every once in a while, just call a girl and say, hey, just checking on you. How are things going? Because it's lonely. It's lonely. And you just got to figure out, how do you keep yourself abreast on what's going on in education, all these fundings, and then and find someone that you know you can depend on, and that's going to keep it straight with you at all times.
And you can always count on Gertrude.
You know what? Miss Gertrude Copeland, she was the very first person that started calling me professor. She had a son at our school, Copeland, and you didn't have to call her. She was the parent who was going to be there. She was going to be there checking in, making sure that we were doing what we were supposed to be doing, and that he was doing what he was supposed to be doing. So parents like that, they come a dime a dozen for some people, but for me, I've had the pleasure of having plenty of them. And Gertrude has always been very good to me. When I lost my mom, she was very, just she just talked you through it. And she can retire. She can retire whenever. She's been doing this forever, but she still loves it, and she's still out there fighting for our kids.
And so, as we're talking, Dr. Epperson, about this very powerful role as superintendent, and you mentioned at the top of the show that there's some things that can be a struggle. What do you think is going to be the toughest thing for you to face in satisfying this 5-member board that has placed a huge amount of confidence in you?
I think the biggest thing for me is showing the amount of progress. So we function in our district based on what we call the TACO. That's the talent, academics, culture and climate, and operations. And I know people hear me talk, they're like, I'm so sick of the TACO, but that's how we function. Because if we are not addressing all of these things in our strategic plan, then we're probably not going to see growth. I think one of the big things that my school board would like to see, and what I would like to see, is just provide them with evidence of growth. Kids may not pass all the tests and score where we want them to score so far as achievement. But again, every kid deserves to grow 1 year in their current school year. That's like a kid comes to you and you take them where they are and you move them. If a kid can stay in your classroom all year long and they don't get 1 year of growth, that's detrimental on a kid's educational career. So I just want to be able to show them some growth in some areas of math, all of the tested areas.
Dr. Janice Epperson, I will say that I am so proud of you, and so very proud to be able to salute you
Thank you.
in this role, and you get to go to the Strawberry Festival this year.
Yes, I have not been since I left to go to Connecticut. I am just so excited. I'm just a corn dog and a cotton candy girl, and I just like being a part of the atmosphere. And again, it's that small town community, and it's going to be fun. It's going to
Are
be
you going to
fun.
be in the
Yes.
parade?
Probably be on a car, but I'll probably walk and then get right back to where my family sits. And I don't need anybody in Humboldt to take our spot. We have our spot. We don't want anybody to take our spot. And so I'll go right back to my spot and then I'll watch the rest of the parade. We're just excited about, we have a new band director and we stole him from Lane College. And so our kids are excited and our band is supposed to be massive next year. So we're excited. And I'm just excited to know that we have kids who, work hard to be in some part of the parade, whether it's in the beauty pageant or whether it's in the floats and the cars, whatever. And then our athletes, they usually pull the floats like they did years ago. So we're excited about that.
Well, I am excited for you. And I thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be a part of our Sisters of Wellness show. Sisters of Wellness. So, our goal is to sow into the lives of other young women and men. Ricardo, thank you so much for joining us. And Dr. Epperson, um, when you look at this opportunity of where you are right now, as you think about the days ahead, what is it that you hope will be the crown in the jewel, the jewel in the crown of your tenure as superintendent for Humboldt City Schools?
Pamela, sometimes we think and we dream unrealistically, but I think this is realistic in my world. I just simply want our kids to graduate with the tools that they need to do whatever they want to do. You got to spread your wings. I talked to a teacher today. If our students are sent out and they can spread their wings, they can always come back home. I'm a prime example of that. But I want them to go somewhere, see what life has out there. And if coming back is what you want to do, fine. If you want to send money back, fine. That's a ploy for the rest of the people who are listening there. But if we don't give them the tools that they need to be successful, they can't compete. I'll never ever forget. My mother said, when you go places, you're from the little country town. If you don't know what to do, sit back and watch people. Sit back and you watch people and you do what they do. You circle yourself with people who are successful and then you do the same thing. If you are in if you're in the circle and you're the smartest person, your circle is too little.
Mm-hmm.
Find someone to feed off of. Who do you want to be like? When you grow up, do you want to be like Pamela Marshall? When you grow up, do you want to be like Janice Epperson? When you grow up, who do you want to be like? And talk to them. And how did you get here? Because a lot of people think we just wake up and we're successful. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of hard work. It was a lot of disappointing moments, but we persevered and we got through it. And we have to let our kids know that this is not an entitlement thing. We don't care who you are. The world doesn't care who your parents are. You just got to be able to compete. And if we don't provide our kids with the tools they need to compete, we have failed them.
And I pray that God will continue to give you wisdom and understanding and cover you with the blood as you lead in this endeavor. We
Thank
are
you
so
so much.
proud of you and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, from watching from all over. Thank you for your comments. And y'all just keep her in your prayers. And I look forward to you planting more seeds
Yes.
like you so we can increase the number of women and African American women who are in this role, the most powerful role in a school system And that role is that of superintendent, and you're in the seat.
Thank you so much, Pamela. I really appreciate it. I take all of the prayers. I take all of the comments. I wish I could see them. I have a bifocal, so I could see something popping up, but I couldn't read it. But I just really appreciate all my friends and my family, my church members. I saw one of my ministers on there. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Elaine. It's just been awesome. My cabinet, I see them on there. And Miss Flora Claybrook, if you don't know her, oh my gosh, she's amazing.
I do know her.
Yes.
Excuse me, I do.
Excuse me, I
I've
forget you.
interviewed her. She's been on
Yes.
Sisters of Wellness.
Oh, yeah, she's amazing. But I just really appreciate you even thinking, enough of me to ask me to be a part of your show. That means a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely. Everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for your comments. And we so look forward to seeing you next time on Sisters of Wellness. And then on Thursday, our show, The Timbuktu Report at 7 o'clock. We hope that you will join us with Dr. Rick Stevenson. In the meantime, I'm Pamela Marshall at the Wellness Radio TV and at the Wellness Radio TV podcast. Remember, there is healing at the well. Make it a fantastic moment. We'll see you next time.